Many greetings to everybody. Very soon I am going to conduct for the first time the masterpiece by Italian composer Ottorino Respighi, Trilogia Romana. This work contains 3 parts, 3 symphonic poems dedicated to one particular topic: fountains, pine trees, and festivals of Rome. In turn, each of them is divided in 4 more sections, which flow into each other, creating a continuous music development. Thus, in 3 symphonic poems, the composer describes 12 places of Rome, which are telling us about the history, culture, and traditions of this beautiful eternal city. Of course, it was very important to me to make such a trip during my preparations and to see everything with my own eyes and to feel everything personally. After all, the composer is not limited just to decorative music images. Through his music, he encouraged us to reflect about the senses. The first question I asked myself was why he chose these 3 topics. What symbols are on them? In my opinion, we can distinguish 2 main lines that contrast with each other. The first is the enjoyment of earthly life, and the second is the search for eternity through asceticism and spirituality. These 2 themes are contrasted also in different periods of history, pagan Rome and Rome during the Christian era, and are followed in all 3 poems. The names of the 3 main parts also have a symbolic meaning for me. The fountains of Rome means water as a symbol of the birth of life, transformation and continuous connection between past, present and future. Pine trees of Rome are like a tree of life, and its fruits are an important symbol for pagans as well. Let's remember the thyrsus, the stick of Dionysus, decorated with pine cones, symbol of immortality, prosperity and fertility. For Christians, it is a symbol of enlightenment and illumination. In the 3rd part, Festivals of Rome, Respighi talks about the people and their traditions as a part of worldview and culture. Some of them show spectacles and unbridled celebrations. Even then, the price for this is the suffering of others. Other traditions are celebrating completely another point of view. In penance, try to breathe eternal life even though in another world. The finale we see depicted one of the most favorite children holidays, thus glorifying faith in life, goodness, and the value of unique folk traditions which are preserved through the centuries to the present day. Now I want to invite you to join me on my expedition to find and to visit 12 places of Roman Trilogy by Ottorino Respighi. In advance, I want to thank many wonderful people who helped me to organize my trip, including the Ukrainian embassy in Italy. My adventure began with some issues. Due to bad weather, which then also caught up with me in Rome, the planes were cancelled. I could start only on next day, and you cannot imagine my happiness when I finally was there. This fountain, the composer invites us to visit at dawn. Through the pastoral character of music, Respighi takes our imagination beyond the city, singing the poetry of rural life. Nature wakes up to the shepherd's play, the sun's rise gently illuminate the earth. Every plant or living creature feels gratitude to the Creator. The water is giving the birth to every life. suddenly the tender melody is interrupted by the signals of the horns. This is Triton, the son of Poseidon, with his train appearing among the stormy waves of the sea. In one moment, the composer transports us to ancient time, to the bright world of mythology. Respighi invites us to visit the fountain of Triton late in the morning, when the sun is already brightly flooding everything around with its rays, glorifying life. Through the music you can imagine the play of nereids and mermaids pursuing each other in the blue waves. And all this bright part is an introduction to the appearance of the main ruler of the water element, Neptune. In his program, Respighi wrote that the trombones, with their powerful and majestic theme, announce the appearance of Neptune's chariot drawn by seahorses. Let's remember here that the ancient Romans were very advanced to build aqueducts, thus developing their cities, where the cult of water and the traditions associated with is kind of special importance. And here we are at the third fountain, the Trevi fountain, as Respighi said, in the afternoon. In the center you can admire a majestic sculpture of Oceanus, accompanied by two Tritons, leading his horses. This is a favorite place for tourists, and in such heat people enjoy the freshness emitted by the fountain. By the way, water is supplied to the fountain to this day from the ancient Aqua Virgo aqueduct, which is more than 2000 years old. Looking at the games of children near the water, you can easily imagine the games of nereids surrounded by sea creatures dancing around the sea king Neptune. While walking around Rome, I came across many images of sea creatures that decorate various fountains of the city, in particular the fountains at the Piazza Navona, to which we are going to come back also in the last part of Trilogy. By the way, the sea king Neptune is also the symbol of city of Bologna, where the composer Ottorino Respighi was born. Finally, evening comes. Rome wears a crown made of the golden rays of the setting sun. And here we are at the fourth fountain, the fountain near the Medici villa. At first glance it is unremarkable, but in the evening silence it tells us his story. Its shape resembles the Grail cup, where a formal cannonball rises in the middle. During the Napoleonic Wars, this shot was aimed at the Medici villa, but the strong wrought iron door survived, although a noticeable dent remains on it to this day. Italy has long ceased to be at war with France, and the former weapon, created to destroy and kill, has turned into a symbolical decoration of the fountain, near which passers-by like to rest, looking down on the city. The bells of the Roman Church reminds us of prayer, of love, of peaceful life, to which we should all strive. Here we meet pine trees. These beautiful green guardians of Rome are found all over the city. Each tree lives for 200-250 years, so you can imagine how many generations they have already seen at their age. First, Respighi invites us to the park near Villa Borghese. Pine trees are located here in even rows, creating a pleasant coziness on the alleys, where families like to walk and small children play. In this cheerful part, the composer used the motifs of the original children's counters, which are known to every Italian child. No doubt, the composer is recalling his own childhood too. We hear brilliant orchestration with a lot of percussion instruments, and in the dissonance of the trumpets we can imagine how mothers try to calm their pets, who in unrestrained games protest more and more and do not want to leave their entertainments. By the way, expressing the joyful mood, the composer does not use double basses in the orchestra at all, which enter only when the noises of children's games suddenly stops, and we find ourselves in completely different atmosphere in the silence of Roman catacombs. There are more than 60 catacombs in Rome, and only a few of them are open to visitors. Filming inside of the catacombs is prohibited. Of course, I was primarily interested in finding a place that Respighi could be inspired by, and I saw very beautiful pine trees nearby the Callistus catacomb. These catacombs were built for the first Christians as early as the 2nd century and developed into the largest underground burial site in Rome. The length of the catacombs is more than 20 kilometers, where there are at least 370,000 graves. About 100 of them are the graves of martyrs. Not far from this place, located along the Via Appia Antica, is the famous church Quo Vadis Domine, which was built on the place of the appearance of Jesus Christ to the apostle Peter. He asked Jesus, "Where are you going, Lord?" To which Jesus replied that he was going to Rome, where he should be crucified a second time instead of Peter. After that, Apostle Peter returned to Rome, but considered himself unworthy to accept the same death as his master, so he asked to be crucified upside down. The music of this part is drawing the place inside of catacombs. In the dark, with the light of lamps, a religious mood prevails. The preacher's voice sounds like a ray of hope. In the orchestra, it is a solo trumpet, which depicts hope and faith in eternal life with its theme. The believers respond with a prayer, expressed in harmonious ostinato rhythm that develops up to a state of religious ecstasy. In the finale, the events of those tragic centuries are again hidden in the darkness of the past and in the dungeons of the catacombs. The reverent silence is broken by a romantic piano passage. It is night, and we are on the Gianicolo, on one of the hills, where even now you can admire the view of night Rome. In this part, completely different feelings are sung. Not the desire for liberation from the shackles of earthly existence. On the contrary, the tenderness and passion of most beautiful human feelings, love. The full moon dreamily gives its silver glow to lovers, and the warm night envelops it with a veil, hiding it from prying eyes. 100-year-old pine trees wave their branches approvingly, and to create the atmosphere of a romantic night, the composer even used in the score a recording of a live nightingale, which is ready to sing a serenade until the very morning. A romantic night passed like a dream. Suddenly, we hear distant rhythmic footsteps. We have moved back several centuries again, and we are right on the Via Appia Antica, the street which is now called the longest museum in the world. Pine trees line the roadsides in even slender rows, providing to the travelers the necessary shade. 190 years before Christ, it was extended to Brindisi and thus stretched for 540 kilometers. In Brindisi was the largest fair for trading goods and slaves from the east. And already from the first beats of the music, we hear not only the synchronously marching army of Roman legionnaires, but also the cries and sighs of slaves who are being led as booty to Rome. The orchestral texture unfolds more and more. Soon the army enters the city through the Porta San Sebastiano. Heading straight to the Capitolio, where the Roman heroes were greeted with all honors and glory by the emperor himself. The first part of the festivals of Rome begins with the neighing of horses, the fanfares of 3 buccine, the brass instrument that was used in the ancient Roman army. We can imagine the clanking of chains, the roaring of wild animals, mixed with the calls of a maddened crowd. Panem et circenses, bread and spectacle. This was the slogan of the policy of Emperor Augustus Rhine, so it was easier to rule his people. We are now on the territory of the largest circus in Rome, which in its time accommodated up to 300,000 spectators. By the 6th century, it was used for chariot races, gladiator fights, and the hunting of wild animals that were killed for entertainment. In the symphonic poem, despite all the excitement of the crowd, which eagerly seeks the beginning of the spectacle, we hear the religious death chant of the martyrs. But very soon the choral completely disappears in the rising wave of general noise and exclamations. Suddenly, we attend to the great contrast. The mood of excited and wild ancient entertainment is replaced by a monotonous, soft melody. These pilgrims walk with their tired feet on the cobbled road, and every next step brings physical pain. But the more they feel fatigue in every muscle of their body, the more they are tormented by thirst after a whole day under the burning Italian sun, the higher the heart rises in prayer, and the soul longs for salvation from earthly suffering. And so the last steps lead them to the top of Monte Mario, and suddenly the eyes cannot be satisfied with the long-awaited view. And suddenly, where did the fatigue go? Where did the pain in the legs and in the whole body disappear? The soul found wings and is already soaring in unison with the chimes of the great Roman churches. The lively and cheerful horn theme begins a new day. The October holiday in Castelli Romani, the small towns located on the hills not far from Rome. Picturesque garlands of grapes, fresh wine, smells of local cuisine, entertainment for children and adults. Everything invites to celebration, the center of which is the enjoyment of the bountiful gifts of autumn. As a part of my trip, I visited two places, Nemi and Albano, both located on the shores of volcanic lakes. Small streets are inviting to their cozy restaurants with tempting aromas. And from the picturesque dense forest, the sound of the horns already announced the beginning of the hunt under the guidance of the goddess Diana herself. express the local musical colorit, the composer is adding to the symphonic orchestra the mandolin solo, which reminds us of the beautiful Italian ancient tradition of street music. Solo violin and solo cello are playing romantic melody of love duet. But meanwhile, the carriage of inexorable time, decorated with the bells, takes us back to the city. And finally, we are at one of the most beautiful Baroque squares in Rome, Piazza Navona. In the summer, it boasts magnificent fountains by Bernini and Giacomo della Porta, and in the winter, it turns into a fairy tale, preserving one of the most favorite traditions of Roman children. During the Christmas holidays, the square shines with the dazzling lights of the historic Befana market. The pleasant old lady riding a broom, whose origins probably date back to the celebration of ancient Rome for the winter solstice, distributed sweets and toys to little Romans, even before the figure of Santa Claus established itself in the collective imagination. I can only imagine how on the beginning of January, the Romans of all ages, since more than 200 years, are wandering among its stalls in search of the perfect gift. It offers typical Christmas gastronomic delights, decorations, suggestive nativity scenes, toys, handicrafts, and books for the young and old. Respighi writes a brilliant finale, where in a symphonic sound the incendiary saltarello dance, valse, screams of drunkards, and confident shots of passers-by in a festive mood are vividly combined. And we hear the main phrase, popular slogan, which symbolically sounds like the final summary of whole trilogy. Lasciateci passare, siamo Romani. Let us pass, we are Romans. Here we have finished the review of the 12 places of the Roman trilogy. We listened to the musical examples from the recording with Arturo Toscanini, the first conductor of the world premiere who greatly contributed to the popularization of this masterpiece all over the world. And I can say that after all my inspiration I collected from my trip to Rome, I am looking forward to the beginning of rehearsals with the orchestra of Teatro Comunale di Bologna and our closing concert of Respighi Festival. And I hope to see you in the audience.